Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. When the Miami Dolphins and general manager Chris Grier officially decided to part ways last Friday, the announcement sent ripples across the NFL landscape, and not the kind that signals stability. Owner Stephen Ross called it a mutual decision, the kind of phrase that tends to sound like corporate code for someone had to take the fall. Within hours, reports emerged assuring fans that head coach Mike McDaniel would remain Miami's head coach for the remainder of the season at least. But those last two words, at least, spoke volumes. They hinted that McDaniel's chair, though not yet empty, was already warming up. And as the Dolphins stumble through what's shaping up to be another disappointing season, you can feel the uncertainty creeping through every corner of South Florida. The big question now echoing through Hard Rock Stadium is simple but seismic. Could the Dolphins really fire Mike McDaniel before the season even ends? To understand how he got here, you have to rewind just a bit. When Mike McDaniel arrived in Miami, he was heralded as a fresh mind, a creative genius from Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree who was supposed to unlock the full potential of TUA Tagovailoa and bring modern offensive brilliance to South Beach. For a while, it looked like that promise might actually come to life. The Dolphins' offense was electric, explosive, fun, the kind of scheme that made defensive coordinators lose sleep. But football is a brutal sport, not just physically but organizationally. The NFL doesn't hand out trophies for clever play design. It rewards results. And through McDaniel's tenure, those results have simply not come when it matters most. Miami's regular season highs have repeatedly dissolved into postseason lows. No playoff wins. No signs of a legitimate Super Bowl push. Just more questions, more doubt, and now, with a 2-7 record staring them in the face after a humiliating 28-6 loss to the Baltimore Ravens, the air feels thick with frustration. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated dropped a bit of gasoline on that fire earlier this week. He noted that nothing is guaranteed for McDaniel at the end of the season or even over the next few weeks, emphasizing that ownership could pull the trigger if things keep spiraling. That's not the kind of language you use about a coach whose job is safe. Breer added that the upcoming stretch, a standalone international game in Madrid followed by a bye week, could serve as a natural breaking point if Stephen Ross decides it's time to reset. That timing, frankly, makes sense. NFL teams rarely make massive moves in the middle of chaos. They wait for moments of pause, like a bye week, to change direction without completely derailing the locker room. But the way things are going, that locker room might already be slipping beyond McDaniel's grasp. That's the scary part for him. According to Breer, the one scenario that could cost McDaniel his job before the season's end would be if he loses control of his players. And when you watch this team right now, the sloppy mistakes, the lifeless energy, the body language of a group that looks beaten down, you can't help but wonder if that's already happening. Reports have surfaced suggesting some veterans are frustrated with the offensive inconsistency and lack of identity. When things start to unravel like that, a locker room can turn faster than you think. Once that happens, even the brightest defensive mind in the league can't draw up a play to save himself. The trade deadline only amplified that sense of unraveling. On Monday, Miami sent pass rusher Jaylon Phillips to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 2026 third-round pick. On paper, that move screams sell mode. It's the kind of deal teams make when they're waving a subtle white flag, when they're admitting the current roster isn't built to win right now. For the players still in that building, it's a gut punch. It signals that management has one eye on the future and maybe not much faith in the present. Combine that with Grier's departure, and it starts to feel like Stephen Ross is setting the stage for a full-on reset, one that could absolutely include McDaniel's exit. And make no mistake, Ross has reason to be impatient. This is his 18th season as owner, and he still hasn't experienced the thrill of a playoff victory. That's a staggering drought. The last time the Dolphins won a postseason game, Bill Clinton was still in office, Tom Brady hadn't yet become a household name, and the world hadn't even heard of social media. The franchise that once boasted Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, has become a symbol of unfulfilled potential. Every few years, there's a new plan, a new coach, a new promise. Yet somehow, the results always look eerily familiar. For Ross, it's not just about losing football games anymore. It's about legacy. Owners don't like to admit it, but perception matters, and right now, the perception around Miami is that it's a team stuck in neutral. Ross' frustration reportedly played a key role in the decision to move on from Chris Greer, who had been with the franchise in some capacity since 2000. That's a quarter-century of tenure with minimal playoff success. Now, Ross and team president Tom Garfinkel are trying to chart a new course, possibly one that includes a brand-new head of football operations, someone who will likely want to bring in their own coach. McDaniel knows how this business works. When a new executive takes over, they almost always prefer to start fresh, to build their own culture from scratch. Unless McDaniel can deliver something remarkable in the next few weeks, he's facing an uphill battle to convince Ross and whoever comes next that he's the guy to lead this rebuild. The upcoming games could define McDaniel's fate. Miami hosts the Buffalo Bills on November 9th, a matchup that looks daunting even for a confident team, and the Dolphins right now are anything but confident. ESPN BET has them listed as 8.5-point underdogs at home, which tells you everything about how far expectations have fallen. Then, just a week later, they'll travel across the Atlantic to face the Washington Commanders in Madrid. That's not just a football game. That's a global spotlight moment, one where all eyes, including Ross's, will be watching. If Miami comes out flat, if they look uninspired or unprepared, the bye week that follows could be the perfect time for a major shakeup. McDaniel's supporters will point to the injuries, the roster turnover, the inconsistencies at quarterback, and they're not wrong. The Dolphins have dealt with plenty of adversity. But in the NFL, excuses don't buy time. Results do. And when you strip everything else away, the record doesn't lie. 2-7, no playoff wins in 3 seasons, a culture that feels shaky at best. It's hard to make a compelling case for job security under those circumstances. Even McDaniel's once-vaunted offensive scheme looks predictable now. Defenses have adjusted, and Miami hasn't found an answer. For a coach who was supposed to be the next great innovator, that's a brutal indictment. There's also the question of leadership. McDaniel's quirky, laid-back personality was a breath of fresh air at first, especially in contrast to the hyper-intense coaches who often dominate the NFL. But in times of crisis, that easygoing style can start to look like detachment. Players want to know their coach has a plan, that he's in control, that he can steady the ship when the waves get rough. Right now, the Dolphins look more like a team adrift than one following a clear course. If that perception continues, even McDaniel's strongest allies in the building may struggle to defend him. And yet, it's not all doom and gloom. Not yet, anyway. There's still time for McDaniel to flip the script, to remind everyone why he was considered one of the brightest minds in the sport. If Miami can somehow rally, steal a couple of wins, and show genuine progress, Ross might think twice before blowing it all up. But that window is closing fast, and the Dolphins' margin for error is basically non-existent. Every snap, every drive, every post-game presser could shape McDaniel's future. The stakes are that high. So here we are, the Miami Dolphins, once again standing at a crossroads, their season teetering on the edge. A proud franchise searching for answers, an owner desperate for relevance, and a head coach fighting to keep his dream alive. Whether Mike McDaniel survives the year may depend not on statistics or play calls, but on something much harder to quantify: belief. Does Stephen Ross still believe in McDaniel's vision? Do the players? Or has that belief already slipped away like so many seasons before? We're about to find out. Because if history tells us anything, it's that patience in Miami is running dangerously thin. And if the Dolphins stumble through the next few weeks, don't be surprised if Mike McDaniel finds himself on the wrong side of yet another mutual parting of ways before this season even takes its final breath. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Guys, stop what you're doing, because this is huge. This is the kind of news that sends shockwaves through the NFL. And trust me, it's the kind of development that will have fans and analysts talking for weeks. Tua Tagovailoa is no longer the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Yes, you heard that right. The young signal caller who many believed was the future of the franchise, the player who carried so many expectations on his shoulders since being drafted, has officially been removed from the starting quarterback role. And let me tell you, this is not a subtle shakeup, it's seismic. The Dolphins, a team that has long relied on Tua's potential, are suddenly entering uncharted territory, and everyone is asking the same question. What just happened? Rumors have been swirling for weeks. There were whispers in the locker room, subtle hints from insiders, cryptic statements from coaches, and the kind of speculation that makes every fan on social media hit refresh obsessively. People were saying, maybe he's injured, maybe he's being rested, maybe it's all just noise. But now, the silence has been broken, and the truth is stark and undeniable. Tua Tagovailoa is no longer the man behind center for the Dolphins. The decision reportedly came after a series of internal evaluations, discussions between the front office and coaching staff, and an intense review of the team's trajectory and performance. Sources suggest that it wasn't just one game, one mistake, or one bad stretch. It was a cumulative judgment. Performance metrics, leadership dynamics, and even intangibles like locker room chemistry apparently played a role. Imagine the kind of pressure that comes with wearing the Dolphins uniform. Miami has a fan base that is passionate, vocal, and relentless. Tua has faced criticism, praise, hope, and doubt all in the same breath. The expectations were sky high, especially after a season that promised glimpses of brilliance, but was also plagued by inconsistency and frustrating turnovers at critical moments. It seems that the front office, after countless meetings and perhaps sleepless nights analyzing tape, concluded that a bold move was necessary. Bold moves in the NFL always get people talking, and this one is no exception. To pull a quarterback of Tua's profile off the field is a statement. It's a signal that the organization is prioritizing either a shift in philosophy, a new leadership dynamic, or an urgent need to protect the long-term vision of the team. The speculation about what happens next is already reaching a fever pitch. Who will take over? Is it going to be a veteran brought in from outside? Or is there a young, untested player ready to seize the moment? Some insiders hint at a potential trade scenario, whispering names of quarterbacks that could come in from other teams. Others are leaning toward the internal development route, betting that someone from within the roster, maybe a backup who's been quietly preparing behind the scenes, will now be thrust into the spotlight. There's no official confirmation yet about the replacement, but what's clear is that Miami is looking to send a strong message. The era of Tua as the uncontested starter is over, at least for now. Fans are understandably in shock. Social media is exploding with reactions, memes, and heated debates. Some are loyal to Tua, defending him fiercely, pointing to injuries, lack of protection, and coaching inconsistencies as reasons why he deserves another chance. Others are calling for immediate change, convinced that the team needs a fresh start at the most important position in football. And then there are those who are simply stunned, unsure what to think, caught between disbelief and curiosity. This kind of move doesn't happen in isolation. It reverberates across the league. Rival teams, commentators, and analysts are already weighing in, predicting the ripple effects, discussing trade possibilities, and analyzing the Dolphins' upcoming schedule in light of this shocking decision. Inside the organization, sources claim the atmosphere has been tense but professional. Coaches are reportedly working overtime to recalibrate their strategy, while front office executives are navigating the delicate balance between public relations and operational decisions. There's talk of meetings behind closed doors, urgent strategy sessions, and detailed plans to ensure the team remains competitive despite such a monumental shakeup. The locker room, from what insiders say, is processing the news with a mix of emotions. Respect for Tua's work ethic is still present, but the team is being told to focus on what's next, to channel energy into preparation rather than speculation. Leadership dynamics are shifting in real time, and the next few weeks could define not just this season, but potentially the next era of Dolphins football. And let's be honest, this is the kind of news that fuels endless debate. Was this the right call? Could Tua have turned things around if given more time? Did injuries or coaching decisions unfairly affect his trajectory? Every angle is being dissected by analysts, bloggers, and fans alike. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but in the NFL, decisions have consequences, and the Dolphins clearly decided that action was necessary. Whether this marks the beginning of a renaissance or a period of turbulence remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. Miami is no longer a team anchored by Tua Tagovailoa, and that changes everything, from game planning to fan expectations to league-wide perception. As for Tua, this moment will define him as a player, a leader, and a public figure. Will he embrace the challenge of reclaiming his role, or will this turn into a new chapter elsewhere? The narrative is still unfolding. The trade rumors will intensify, the media speculation will grow louder, and every practice, every snap, every decision he makes will be scrutinized under a microscope. There's no telling how he will respond, but for fans of drama, suspense, and the high-stakes world of professional football, this is as riveting as it gets. The Dolphins' decision to move on from Tua Tagovailoa is more than a roster change. It's a story of ambition, urgency, and the unforgiving nature of professional sports, where even the brightest stars can suddenly find themselves in the shadows. So buckle up, because the NFL landscape just shifted in a way that nobody fully expected. The Miami Dolphins are entering a new era, whether we like it or not, and the ripple effects of this decision will be felt far beyond the Sunshine State. Tua Tagovailoa is out, and the question now is, who steps in to take the helm, and can they rise to the challenge that Tua could not? Every analyst, every fan, and every team across the league will be watching, waiting, and calculating their next move in response. The drama is far from over, but one thing is absolutely certain. The Dolphins just made a move that will dominate NFL conversations for months to come, and the name Tua Tagovailoa will never be associated with Miami in quite the same way again. This is history in the making, and it's only just beginning. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.